So I recently got my hands on the Kobo Libra H2O. Everybody is hyping up. This is the best Kobo out there right now. But after using it for a little while, I've got to say I wasn't that impressed. In this video, I'll be doing a deep dive review of the Kobo Libra H2O, going through all the things I find a little weird, but also the things I really do enjoy as well. Hi there, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. My name is Maneetpaul Singh. On this channel, we talk about tech and getting things done. I gotta say, using e-readers like the Kobo is an amazing way to get more things done while you're reading. Now, the first thing I want to talk about regarding the Kobo Libra over here is the buying experience. It starts at $169. It only comes in an 8GB model, so there's no higher option for storage, for audiobook support or anything like that. And it also only has two options, black or white. There is no other configuration options you can choose for this model of Kobo. It is a waterproof Kobo, so I will say it is one of the only waterproof Kobos that are out there. And it also is kind of an in-between model. It's not the highest model you can get, but it's also not the lowest. It falls right between the Kobo Forma and the Kobo Clara. In terms of tech specs, nothing really crazy about this, just like all the other Kobos and most Kindles out there too. It has a 1 GHz processor with 512 megabytes of RAM. This is very standard for all the e-readers out there right now. The battery life on this thing is also quite insane. Just like any other e-reader, the Kobos especially have really good battery. You don't have to charge this thing at all. It'll last you more than a week easily. Just for reference on battery, I read about a half hour to an hour every single night on my e-reader, so that is my baseline. Depending how much you read, the battery life may differ. Now, Kobo is a company based out of Canada, so depending where you are in the world, it will be an international shipment. I live here in America, so I got shipped from Canada to America. It took about a week, less than a week I would say, to get here, which was really nice, but it's not the same thing as buying a Kindle with Prime shipping, so definitely keep that in mind depending where you are. Now, there are several things about the Libra H2O that I do enjoy, but there are more things that I don't find very nice, and the first of those is the actual build quality of the device. The back of the Libra H2O is a rubberized back. It reminds me of the Kindle Paperwhite and that soft touch back. It doesn't feel plasticky on the back, but it does have a lot of fingerprints, and I don't like that at all. I would rather have a matte finish black on the back without fingerprints than this rubberized texture. And the one thing that makes it worse is this texture design of the little holes all over the place. Because of this, crumbs and dust can easily get stuck inside that little texture design, and I've had that happen a lot now. I constantly find myself having to clean this thing. Now, while we're on the back of the device over here, let's talk about this power button. If you watched my previous review videos of e-readers, you know for some reason power buttons are a very weird thing in this category of tech. And on this one, it just goes completely rogue. Usually you find a power button on the top of the device or the side of the device, and in the case of the Kobo Clara or the Kindle Paperwhite, on the bottom of the device. But on this device, the Libra H2O, they went completely rogue and put the power button on the back. I will say it does feel really nice. I love the shape of the power button. It's a round button. It's not like a flat button that you normally see on a phone or something like that. Your finger could easily fit into it. It just has a nice click to it. It's a very good button, but the thing that absolutely annoys me and drives me crazy is it's in the worst place possible. As you can see on the design over here, the page turn buttons and the place where you actually hold the Libra is on the right side of the device. They put the power button on the back left side of the device, so if you want to turn it off or on, you have to use your other hand to reach around and press the button. If they just put the button on the right side on the back, where your hand will already be sitting, it would be much easier to wake this thing up from sleep or put it back to sleep. I know I'm nitpicking right now, this is such a small detail, but it really doesn't make any sense to me. Every device I've reviewed so far for the e-reader category doesn't know where to put the power button. It really isn't that complicated. Another interesting design choice, speaking of buttons and ports over here, is the micro USB chargers on the right side, on the side of the device, not on the top, not on the bottom. They put it on the side. Again, this is a very very weird design choice. I don't imagine having a phone with the charging port on the side of the device. There are a few like that, and this is just one of those things. And it does work just fine. It doesn't cause any functional issue like the power button does. But the one thing I will complain about is the fact that it's a micro USB charger. This really should have been a USB-C charger by now. Moving on to the front of the device over here, it does have a matte black finish, very similar to the Clara HD model. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just me and the amount I've been using it, but it does get fingerprints a lot more easily compared to the Clara HD, even though it looks like the same type of plastic they used. Again, this might just be my personal experience, but this matte black finish does get fingerprints. It's not completely immune to that. Now, this brings me to my biggest complaint of the Clara HD, and that's just the overall design of plastic they use for the build of the device. I bring this up because when I'm using it, it really just doesn't feel like a nice device to use. And I hold it in my hand, especially when I'm in bed laying down, I kind of feel that crackling sound when you get plastic and you squeeze it a little tight. It's a really weird feeling. It doesn't feel very premium. And this is supposed to be a mid-tier option for the Kobo lineup. I would really expect it to be a higher quality finish than this plasticky feel. But the reason why the price is slightly higher than the Clara HD is you're getting an inch extra of display and also these handy page turn buttons. Let me talk about these page turn buttons for a second. If you're buying the Kobo Libra H2O for the sole purpose of having page turn buttons, don't do it. These are the worst page turn buttons I've ever used. I don't know why they chose to use these kind of buttons, but they don't even work half the time. You have to press the button just right toward the center of the button for the button to actually click down. If you press it at the very edge, it won't even register the click. And secondly, the button is so flush against the matte plastic over here, it's really hard to actually press it down. You have to put your finger just in the right place so it can actually press the button. It's not like you can just run your finger over it and press the button very easily. That was a very big disappointment for me. People like to buy these devices for that purpose of having a page turn button. That's kind of one of the premium things you're paying for, and these page turn buttons just aren't worth it. Now, putting all of that aside, one thing I do really enjoy about the Libra H2O is the 7-inch 300 ppi display. This is a full inch larger than the Clara HD display, and I have to say, having that extra inch of screen real estate is totally worth it when reading a book. It also has color temperature control, which I really appreciate. You can set that by the auto schedule and just input your bedtime, and as your bedtime approaches, the screen will slowly turn more and more orange to help you fall asleep better. Now, it doesn't have ambient light sensor, so the brightness is something you have to manually adjust, which is a bit annoying. But on the Kobo, it's really easy to adjust the brightness. You just take your finger on the left side of the display and slide up or down, and that's the shortcut to adjust the brightness. Holding the Libra H2O does feel really nice. It's very similar to the Kindle Oasis, where all the controls are on the side of the device. It has a very nice ergonomic feel to it. Now, because of this, you can switch between your different hands. And when you do this, the screen does auto-rotate, which I find really, really nice. The rotation sensor in here is also very sensitive. It'll rotate pretty much immediately after you spin the device around. Now, one thing that it will not do automatically though is switch between landscape mode and portrait mode. If you want to do this, you have to go into the settings and manually change it. And then once you do that, you can auto rotate between the different ways in that specific mode. I think this was an intentional design choice because if you had that auto rotation just on all the time, it would be rotating very, very quickly. It's a very sensitive sensor. And if you just slightly hold the Kobo in the wrong angle, it would rotate. So having this locked on to only rotate depending on the mode that you're in is actually a good thing. Now, one thing I did find really annoying right out of the box was this one setting that was turned on by default. When I was picking up the Libra H2O randomly throughout the day, it would just automatically wake up from sleep mode. This got extremely frustrating. I discovered in the settings, there's something called the sleep cover. It's an accessory that Kobo sells separately, but by default, the setting is turned on. And I think there's a sensor inside the Kobo that will just recognize if you move it around or there's a magnet or something like that, that will automatically wake up the Kobo from sleep mode when you pick it up. I turned this setting off and it fixed that issue, but that was one bit of an annoyance I found for the first week or so of using the device. Moving on to the software of the Kobo, it has everything you would expect from an e-reader. You can adjust the font size, you can adjust the font itself. It has very easy to use menus. I love the Kobo ecosystem. Everything is very cleanly laid out. One thing I really love is the fact that when you put it into sleep mode, it just very cleanly shows the device sleeping with the book cover on the device. It's a very sleek and minimalist way of having the device be in sleep mode. While you're reading, you can have all the standard things show up, like the progress you've made through the book, how much time is left in your chapter. But one thing that the Kobo does not offer, again, a very small thing, is there's no way to show the current time on the screen while you're reading a book. Two other things the Kobo is really known for is their Pocket integration as well as their overdrive support. When it comes to Pocket, it's a third-party app that lets you easily save articles when you're reading them on the web, so you can read them on your Kobo later on. And then secondly, Overdrive is a great way to connect to your local library so you can have access to more books for free potentially. Now, putting those two things aside, I cannot buy a Kobo for these two other reasons. The first being it doesn't support Readwise, which is my app of choice for syncing my highlights from my Kindle, for example, onto my Notion app, as well as emailing them to me every single day so I can constantly review my highlights. The Kobo does not have support for that app. The Kobo ecosystem also struggles with having a library of books that competes against Amazon's library of books. Again, if you have Overdrive and you live in Canada, for example, I do believe the book selection is better for those people. But if you're in America, it's really hard to compete against Amazon when it comes to book selection. But say you don't care about any of that and you're set on buying a Kobo and you're just wondering if the Libra H2O is worth the purchase. And I've got to say, I don't think it is. I really enjoyed using the Clara HD a lot more than the Libra H2O. The only real thing that you're paying for in terms of the upgrade are the page turn buttons, which absolutely suck, and that 1 inch more of screen real estate. Having that 1 inch extra of screen is really nice, but I don't think that by itself is worth it. If you're gonna buy an e-reader and you just want something simple that works really well, the Clara HD is a great device. The Libra H2O is nice and it's kind of similar to the Oasis. I'll be making a video about that in the future, but I don't think it comes anywhere close to that feel. I actually already have a full review video of the Kobo Clara HD if you're interested in that. Link on the screen for that on the screen right now. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.